The first thing to do is, what I would do is open your tray box. You'll have mostly two boxes, your tray box and your incubator box. This will be where all your hardware is, your incubator trays, which if you get the 3 tray and the hatching tray like most people would do for chickens, is what it comes with, your hardware. But typically, like I said, you'll have 3 incubator trays, and contingent on what your order is, you know, your egg positioners will be different. Mr. Bull and O is hatching smaller eggs, so he'll be using bantam egg positioners. And your hatching tray come with 2 dividers or 3. And any extra are $1.80 a piece. But right there, this is all your hardware. So you have first your wafer, like I said, which will be your backup thermostat. You'll set at 102. Thread it on one side, then you got your screws and your electronic thermostat stem if you purchase the upgraded incubator, like I strongly recommend. Then you have your digital hydrometer, and the reason why we don't have a fully integrated thermostat is because you have 2 thermostats in our incubator. If you had a fully digital thermostat, it'd be hard to run 2 thermostats off of it, because the reason why we put 2 in there is so you'll have a backup. Say your incubator gets hit by lightning, or one day you spill water on it, or a rat might eat up a wire. We put you know, a series of terminals on there so you can unplug it and cut the ground wire to where your backup wafer set at 102, and we can get you a thermostat out within a day, and you can get it within 2 days. But as you can see here, this will be all your hardware. In a minute I'll get the incubator out and we'll start putting the hardware on there step by step. Alright, really the only thing I forgot to show you were these wooden strips. Was the only other part of your hardware that we're going to get to in a minute when we break the incubator down in the box. And you got 2 wooden strips with 2, this is just extras that I send out most of the time just in case anybody's missing anything. But you'll have 6 screws that you'll put. This is just to finish off your incubator to hold it tight, you know, because with heat inside of it, it'll expand and contract over time. The best way to unbox the incubator, in my opinion, is to cut it from the bottom, which is, we typically put the bottom when it says incubator box. So that'll be the bottom of your incubator. And the reason being is because you want to have it upright when you get done. Alright, now that I got it out the box, we're going to break it down a little more, and as you can tell, I put something to guard your cord. And as you can tell, we label it pretty well, but now this is where your hardware comes in. You'll have a white stem in your incubator hardware box. It'll say adjustment stem. All you have to do is rip off the sticker. And it goes in right here where it says adjustment stem for this electronic thermostat. You have to use a little effort, but that doesn't mean you need to push the incubator over. But you'll just push it in and kind of get it till it catches and push. Alright, now you know it don't come out. Like I was mentioning earlier, this right here is your electronic thermostat. This is your backup wafer, and this is your power cord. The way it works is the power runs in a circle. So if you have this set at a temperature over your electronic thermostat, then you can always run it off your electronic thermostat. There are a lot of problems some people make. I ship it out with this white stem counterclockwise all the way, because the low on the thermostat is 91 and the high is 111. So what I do is I cut it up all the way to try to run it up to 111, and there's a wafer inside this unit that I'll install in a minute. And I'll adjust this wafer in or out to with this light coming on or off periodically to where it's regulated at 102. And then after the light comes on at 102, I'll go to this switch right here, and you know if it's cut counterclockwise all the way at 111, if you go to it and start cutting it clockwise until the light goes off, you know you're under a setting under 102. Well then, your light will start flashing at some number. Well, the light flashing is meaning it's running off your $78 electronic thermostat and it's modulating. It's like you going in the house and you're freezing and it's 68 degrees. Well, you want it to probably about 73 or 2. You know, when it finally gets to 72, your unit will be going on and off occasionally, and your house is regulated. Well, that's the same thing that represents is once you get it to 99.7, you want this light flashing all the time. And the optimal temperature to me is 99.7. Some people set it at 100. You know, in my opinion, the way I incubate my birds and eggs is I set it at 99.7. So if it does go up 0.2 of a degree like any incubator in the world would, you're not, you know, the eggs theoretically aren't running a temperature. I know that's, you know, bizarre to say, but I mean, if you're at 100 degrees and you're a living human being, how well are you really feeling? You know, 0.2 of a degree over 18 or 20 days to me would make a difference. So in a minute, I'm about to move this incubator and show you how to put, you know, the hardware in it, and then we'll just go a step further. The next thing you need are pretty much 3 essential tools: a flat-headed screwdriver to set your backup wafer, a wrench to hold you, you know, to put your hydrometer on tight. You may need this, you may not, but you definitely would want a Phillips drill, a Phillips headed socket with a typical, any kind of electronic drill. I'm just showing you a nice drill. I get my $20 drills from Harbor Freight. You know, they work just as good as any kind you can get, or a Walmart drill, any drill. But next, you can rip off this acrylic, and we usually just ship it on there because it's like, you know, getting a new Christmas toy. And as you can tell, this glass pretty sensitive. You don't know what UPS would do with it. And we take your door and grind it down right here with a file to make sure your felt doesn't eat out. And if your felt does ever, you know, rub a little bit, you just call me. And it's super cheap to get it to you. And if it happens under the first year, then I'll send it out to you for free. The structure of this pan is definitely going to change over time. This is your dropout pan. The only reason why we put this pan in here is because after your eggs hatch, you're really, really going to need that in there. And let me tell you, it's just flimsy little sheet metal. And all it is for is just to hold those eggshells so it doesn't get on your wood, and your incubator can last about 30 or 40 years instead of 25. First thing I would do, most people, this right here is your wafer. It's a little $10 backup thermostat. You know, that right there is $10.50, and this is $10. So you know, most people run it primarily off that for the life of the incubator, and they're making a huge mistake. So if you pay attention and watch how I install this, then you can run it off this $78 thermostat. And it's, you know, would you rather drive a stick shift truck or, you know, or a manual truck? Even though they say stick shift trucks will give you better gas mileage, but that's based on a computer, you know, that's based on if that person knows how to drive it perfectly. You know, think about a truck that, you know, has an automatic transmission, is designed with a computer to change at the right time for optimal gas mileage. That's why cars these days get the highest gas mileage. In my opinion, I may be wrong. But so that's why you're better off not to run it off this than you are to run it off your $78 thermostat. But install your backup thermostat, and what it's really for is because if your primary thermostat goes down, we make it with 3 wires coming out of your electronic thermostat. Okay, the reason why we don't use the fully digital thermostat is because we have a backup thermostat, and the reason being is if your electronic thermostat goes out, we make it with 3 wires. Your hot wires right into your wafer. All right. Well, if you unplug the white from the white wire from your wafer, the blue from the blue wire, you know, from your junction box, you can plug the white wire and the blue wire together, cut your ground, and pull this out, and your incubator will heat. And knowing so, the backup's at 102. So then you can adjust it down to 99.7 until I can send you this backup thermostat. And like I said, if it's under 1 year, it's under warranty. If not, then it'll be $78. You know, this is made 2018, so it's, you know, subject to about a 3 to 5% increase since then. And now we'll have your backup wafer. and it's going to go on this screw with the wing nut on the side that I showed you earlier. Keep screwing it counterclockwise until you get it out a pretty good way to where you can get it to where you can put these threads on the screw. And then you need to hold this within the incubator pretty hard. I mean, not hard, but you know, stationary, so that you can thread it on there so you know it's not going to fall off when it. And the reason why a lot of people don't know what a wafer is, what it is, and the reason why it's a mechanical thermostat is if you can hear this, and it interacts with heat. You may not can hear it shaking, you may can, but once it gets up to 100, it expands. And it'll click the switch, and you just want it clicking the switch at 102 like that so that it'll cut it off. You need to install it on your screw. Just hold it in your hand. I mean, it's a little hard to find, but once you get it, you just start threading it. Well, then you just need to make sure it doesn't move in your left hand, and that's when your flat-headed screwdriver comes in. The only time it really will come in. But you know, you want to make sure this is tight on there. You know, you don't want to be a Hercules or nothing, but you want to make sure it's snug. All right, well next, you know that I told you this has a low of 91 and a high of 111. So I got it cut up all the way technically counterclockwise to 111. All right, well now you need to forget you have this. You got it cut up all the way. Now the only thing you're worried about is setting your back up. And the way you need to start, you need to take it and turn it counterclockwise all the way. All right, but as you can tell, the gap in here, I mean, you know, it's as close to the sidewall of the incubator as it can go. And that's how you need to begin to set your thermostats. And you can go ahead and put the water pan in there, but in a moment I'm gonna put these door catchers, show you how to install these door catchers on there. And you know, we'll go from there. I just don't want to do it on my knees, if y'all know how it is. But the last thing I need to show you is how to put your top strips on your incubator. And this is, you know, it really doesn't matter, but if you want them to match up right, then you'll, you know, follow the vernacular or whatever is written. As you can tell, this is the back, this side down. So one thing's for sure, if you do it like this, it'll drill into your panel, which is not a big deal in the back, but you want to match up your holes, so you want your offset to go right here. All right, well, the same with the front. You know, this is down. This is where it really comes into play though, with the front. If you drill, you could possibly drill it into the door. You would definitely tell with the acrylic, but with the wooden door, it would go right there. But so you need to match them up before you get started. You'll have 6 screws, 4 long ones and 2 short ones. The long ones are meant for the side, and the short ones are meant for the center. And the reason being, if you ever have to take off the top at the, you know, the incubator, which I would recommend you doing at the end of every year to blow it off, as in you'll leave these 2 screws, you'll take these screws out and leave this screw in, and you can take the whole top off, and you'll never have to take these top strips off the incubator again. But you don't want to snug these washers into the wood too bad, because they come pre-drilled. So you just want to snug it like that, make sure it's flush. And what these are designed for is to finish off your cabinet and make them look good, as well as, you know, hold the cabinet together. Because they may, you know, in shipping things happen. But over time, you know, with heat inside the incubator being 99.7, this will help it hold it together over time, even more so, and keep it airtight. And like I said earlier, you need that offset on the inside so you don't drill into your back and your door. But as you can tell, you don't want to sink the washers in too good, you just want it snug. I recommend putting the sides first, like, you know, you saw me do a minute ago, because trying to match up the middle is be just a little bit harder. And honestly, if it's just a little off a little bit, like that one's off this way, you can hold it and bump it with your drill and make it line up good for you, which I may have to do in a second. I had to put up with Virgil all day, so I didn't know if I didn't pack these. This one. And there you go. Top strips are on, and now we'll show you how to put the door catchers on it and install your thermostat. As now you can tell, this is where your hardware comes into play. I would organize my screws based accordingly. But if you have a non-acrylic or wooden door, it wouldn't matter. I got my 3 catchers out, and I know that I'm putting an acrylic door on, so I'm gonna need number 8s. This would be a little, thicker screw. If you didn't have an acrylic door, it really doesn't matter as much. But if you have a normal door, if you have an acrylic door, it doesn't matter as much. But if you have a normal door, we'll send you screws. You just need to pay attention. You need to put the long ones in this part, and the short ones in this. This is your digital hydrometer, but it's 30% humidity outside under this barn right now. Okay, so if it's 30% right now and it's roughly 6:30, 6:45 in the day, most people are misconstrued about the humidity that they should incubate eggs at. Some people are like thinking it's 70 or 80%. Well, that's contingent on what type hydrometer. This is a digital hydrometer, which is a dry bulb hydrometer. It's got a sensor that senses it in the air. A wet bulb hydrometer with a wick that is literally about outdated, the ratio is different. That would be when you would need it 85, 90% humidity. But as you can tell, it's 34% humidity right now. If I was incubating my chickens, pheasant, quail, I'd have it reading 45% humidity, because if you incubate about 55 to 65% humidity, then literally they'll start cracking around the shell and they won't come out. I mean, that is in my experience. But it's better to run it too low than too high, because think about it. If the membrane is too elastic, then the chicks can't puncture the membrane, and once their lungs develop right time they need to puncture the membrane, then they can't get out and they'll drown in the shell. And it's better to have a lower humidity where the membrane is easier to break than it would be to have too high for 18 days to 21. Because look at it right now. In Georgia, it's 34% humidity. Under a hen, it's probably 40. So if you incubate at 65% humidity, or 70 for or 58 even for days, it's like it's raining outside for 18 days. That's just really not feasible in my opinion. Because even though it's maybe raining out there under this garage, a hen's gonna be sitting on her nest, so she's not physically in the rain with 100% humidity. She'd be probably sitting around 65, 75% humidity. So you're telling me, most people think 55 to 60 or even 70 is good, but think about it. That's like it's raining, outside the hen setting box for 18 days. So what I don't believe in dry hatching, but I do believe in trying to keep it around 45, to higher 40% humidity range. All right, now first I'd like to go ahead and install my sash locks on the door. Takes 2 number 8 sheet metal screws. Yeah. What you want to do is just start it in one. Take you another one. Install it. Don't want to overdo it, strip it. It won't be long. Here comes your 632, because I guarantee you if you try to put them in there, they may fit, but you can pull them right out. And in a wooden door, you would not have a problem. Like you saw me sawing there, you don't want to snug them down, or you wouldn't be able to line the hole. Boom. You don't want to overdo it and bend the sash lock. It depends on your degree of your drill. You definitely want it about 12. Overdo it, then you may break the head off the bolt. And if your door ever gets altered in shipping or anything, you can always adjust it by loosening these screws and maybe loosening it and then angling the screw a different way. You could pull the door here, push the door here. In shipping, you never know what could happen. So, dealing with a wooden cabinet, we don't quite make them like GQF manufactured in China. We make every one here in the shop. not here at Mr. Bullino's shop, but here in town. So you know, in wood, some things move over time. So you want to pay attention to that. And let's say you get your door, your incubator. And let's just say this one is fitting pretty well. Let's just say it's touching right here. There's a quick fix for that before you could get started. As you can tell, that door fits pretty good, you know. Alright, but let's just say your door is catching down here. There's a quick fix. All you have to do, take it, swing the door open. Don't let the door hit the ground. Angle it up on the side, just use your weight to just barely lean on it. Just like that. And I guarantee you, your door will be squared up. As you can tell, this door's moved up just a hair. But now you can see the gap is a little bit, but this acrylic door weighs probably 3 or 4 more pounds than your standard door. So in time, his door will go back down to where it needs to be. I mean, of course, it's still where it needs to be, but I'm just saying for those out there who door, you know, they think they have a problem down there, there's a quick solution where you just lean on it. I mean, don't, if you're like Big Mama's house, you know, Martin Lawrence, I wouldn't say jump on it, but if you want to, you know, just tweak it a little bit, there's ways you can do it. Like I said, you just lean on it. It's wood. You know, I'm 175 pounds. I just, you know, jump on a little bit and it'll square up the cabinet for you, you know. It's, you know, nothing. Now I'm going to put it on the table and walk you through how to install the trays and the thermostat and everything. Alright, I'll put this cord on the side, this switch, just for one primary reason. Every time you want to get in your incubator, you need to cut the switch off. And there's a sticker over here that says always turn the switch off when you want to get in the incubator. Reason being, if you leave the fan running, right time you open the incubator, all your heat and humidity's coming out. I mean, every time, one time or two, it's not a big deal, but you know, if you do it every time, then you're gonna run into the problem where you get your eggs to shock. I mean, it ain't really gonna hurt your hatch rate, but to me, if you do it every time and you just get a, you know, in a periodic subconscious to cut that switch off, you know, then it may increase your hatch rate over time. Just because if you live somewhere up north and it's cold inside your, you know, shop, something like this, then it, you know, if it's about 45, 50 degrees outside, it'll take it a little while to get it heated up. But right now I'm gonna cut the switch off and put the hardware in the incubator. You know, while we're here, slide the trays in. This is where your trays come in. But the one thing is, it's contingent on what you get. Mr. Bullino has pheasant. Chickens are a little different, but as you can tell, if you fit them in a certain way, they fit snug. And I recommend them fitting that way, but if you fit them this way, I say that's an inch, you know, on each side that they could turn, boom. And if you have pheasant, you could double stack, but you'd have to cut the row out. You know, it may take you a chop saw or something to cut the row out. But if you have quail, they'll perfectly double stack in a 3-tray incubator. Let's say you wanted to incubate a bulk, you know, hatch, you know, quail for 1,200 to 1,500. You could double stack for $14.45. Where you have an incubator tray cover you could place over this. You could cut your turner off the last 3 days, and you could get you a bulk hatch started. Whether you wanted to get into chicken business, quail business, you know, ornamental pheasant. You always need to make sure these trays are pushed back. And if you have a problem, them coming forward, it might be the elevation of your concrete or anything. So if you're having a problem, you might want to put you a little piece of, I mean, anything like this little piece of rubber right here would be good, but maybe that half that high, something like that under the front of your incubator, so that, you know, over time, if it's like this, you know, the vibrations of the gear motor with the fan will make it fall downhill like an avalanche. You know, that's why an avalanche occurs. So it's essentially the same with your incubator. And if you don't push the trays back, it'll be like a tractor. There's a shaft in the back. And if you don't push that back, you're not paying attention. And it's like that. That gear motor will turn, and it'll bind and turn. It'll strip your shaft. So you have to make sure they're pushed back. You want all the trays in your incubator. And like I said, your hatching crate comes with dividers. You can take them, open them, expand them. Get them more diagonal. You know, you can shrink them, get them straight across, but you know, you can move them where you want. You know, it's just $1.80 a piece over 2. You know, it's your contingent. Are you hatching game fowl, game birds? You know, if you're hatching quail, you know, you really don't need them. But as you can tell, it's better to have the cabinet about knee high, shin high. You know, everything's perfectly off the ground where you can have water. Well, now I have, you know, everything installed within the incubator. So what I want to do now is go ahead and put my water pan in. But I definitely don't want to put any water in yet until I set my thermostats. So now, the only thing left is your hydrometer. And your hydrometer hangs on this set screw right here. And what you really need to do, I loosen mine about halfway like that. I like to be able to drop it on the hydrometer. It's like a golf tee, upside down golf tee. So what you need to do is loosen it, drop it on the fat part of the golf tee, and then you can drop it. And if it's a little too loose, you see that won't go there, so you know you need to go a little more. But of course, all this is included in the instructions. You get the literature. But I think that may be, maybe not. Alright, you see I pretty much got it snug right there. You know where it ain't going anywhere, but if not, you need to get it as close as you can for it to be snug like that, because if you don't, you have it too far threaded out this way. Once you're trying to tighten it with pliers, the head of the screw will turn inside the TRH 158 and you won't be able to tighten it. So if the closer you can get it to slide on the set screw to be snug like that, you'll see now that you'll be able to tighten this number 6 nut on this number 6, and it won't, you see now, it won't go anywhere. So you really got to be meticulous on how you install this set screw. So now you see it's tight on there. And please don't think you pop this out and set it on that. That's what the bolt is for. So don't even worry about that. And as you can tell, when you close it, you can see the hydrometer through the door. This will be the last step we do, putting anything on there before we're ready to set our thermostat. And as you can tell, that's what it has to look like to begin setting our thermostat. Then we got the hardware in the incubator. You know, this has a low of 91 and a high of 111. So we turn it up all the way. Now, all we're worried about is setting this thermostat. And as you notice, I cut it on. The light's red. Well, this light, only thing it represents is the heating element stationed in this squirrel cage right here. So if it's on, it's heating. If it's off, it's not. So that if you're running a manual thermostat, it's either going to be on or off based on this. So we're going to run it up to 1 or 2, and we're going to literally screw it in when it gets to 102 clockwise based on this sticker. And as you can tell, if you screw it in far enough, that it will cut this, the wafer will cut that switch off. Well, you want it cutting on and off at 102, but of course it's not 102 right now. So what we'll do is run it up on 102, is cut it counterclockwise all the way, because you know this is at 111. And we'll get back to you momentarily when it gets up to 102. Now it's time to, you know, this is your turner toggle switch. Down is automated, and as you can tell, if it turns right away, then it was just in a position to turn right away, and up is manual. Up to the sky is where you can move the incubator wherever you want it, but as you can see, down, it'll stop on a pivot. But if you're worried about if your timer's working or not, all you have to do is level the trays back up to even, just like this. And then you'll match the toggle switch down. As you notice this time, it won't turn. But then if you wait a minimum of 2 hours and 45 minutes, they'll move out of level position. If they don't, you have a problem with your timer. But if it ain't straight down, I've been guilty of going back to my incubator and it not be on the timer. But watch, if you move this incubator back down to the 45 and it start coming up, and you mash it down to the automatic position, then it'll start rotating. It's all contingent where your timer is, hitting your timer motor and switch. You see it's coming back up now, you know, it'll move on over. And if you have a problem where it moves over to the side all the way to the left at the 45 and it don't stop turning, then there's a toggle switch in the back, in the middle, that it is not hitting. And it may have got dropped in shipping, but that just right there is what you should be looking at. When it turns to the left, it should stop. as you can tell. And if you're really worried about that, if you're, let's just say you drink coffee at the same time every morning, you know, you wake up at 6:30, you go check your chickens, you do this, blah blah blah, whatever you think. If you really think your turner isn't turning on a schedule, take you a piece of tape when it's on the other side and tape that tray with a piece of, you know, white Scotch tape. Take that tray to the side of the wall and go back at a minimum of, like I said, 2 hours and 45 minutes to 3. And if that piece of Scotch tape is busted and it's not hanging against that wood, then you know your timer's working. But to me, the best way to do it, to know your turner's doing, like I said earlier, is to level them up at even. And as you can tell, this time the switch, you mash it down and the trays do not move. Well, if you go back in a minimum of 3 hours and they don't move, you have a problem. But as you can tell, I've tested this incubator thoroughly. It will turn in 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes, and therefore it will turn every 2 hours and a half, 2 hours and 45 minutes. This way and hold, that way and hold. So you just have to be careful, because every time I go in my office and my incubator with my geese in it on the same side every day. But you know, if I go in there at off time and I'll hit it turn, you just got to be paying attention, you know, to what time of the day you go in there. And if you really think you're having a problem, do what I said. Tape you a piece of tape to the side wall, or either level the trays out even and mash the switch down. But you have, every time you touch this switch right here, just like that, anytime you touch it, this timer has been reenacted. So every time you touch that toggle switch, you have to wait 2.5 hours to a minimum of 2.45, you know, whatever you would want to say. And then now that I've showed you that about the turner, we're at 96.6, you know, percent humidity. But as you can tell, this number right here is roughly 21% humidity. We're at 96% Fahrenheit with 21% humidity. But if this temperature drops, the humidity drops below 21, these lines will be dash dash. And the reason being is we don't have any water in this incubator right now. The main thing we're concentrating on is setting the thermostats. After we set this back up at 102, we'll dial this front one down to 99.7, and then we can put water in the top and regulate it overnight. And then you'll be ready to set eggs, and you've also tested your turner overnight, so you'll know that in the morning it's ready, you know, to put in eggs. Because I wouldn't buy an incubator and just throw eggs in it and thinking, you know, it's going to be the way you go. No incubator in the world will become like most people ask, I need it ready, plug into the wall, put eggs in. You have to spend time to make sure it's regulated just like your house, so that you know the environment inside that incubator is acclimated to what an egg needs to be. Because as you can tell right now, we're not quite right. But if you just throw this in the wall and plug it up, you're not going to have any luck on, you know, at all. And the vents on the back, I know you can't see them right now, but I take my little pinky finger and I shut these vents on the back. He's shut right now, but I'll take these little this right here and I'll shut my pinky on the top and I'll shut my pinky on the bottom. But you always want these vents symmetrical. And the reason being is, just like the way you breathe on the couch watching TV, you take in the same amount of air and you breathe out the same amount of air. Even though you're talking right now, you know, if you're just resting at a constant rate, your intake and outtake the same amount of air. So, you know, if you have the bottom vent shut off compared to the top, you pack an air inside the incubator. So you have to be careful, because if you don't have them symmetrical, you're not going to be able to regulate your humidity. You'll be able to regulate your temperature, but I'm telling you, unless you have it in the back, symmetrical, the vents, then you'll run into a huge problem regulating your humidity. And you want this number instead of 21. Once we get the temperature set, we're going to fill up this water pan, you know, about 3/4 of the way. But after you do that, you know, we're in a shop right now. So, you know, in Georgia, it's roughly 21% humidity inside that incubator. So if it runs up to about, let's just say this number 65 after we fill this water pan up, then you know we need to let in less humid air. So what we'll do, instead of it being a pinky in the back, we'll open these vents halfway and you'll see the humidity significantly drop. Unless you're located in somewhere like Hawaii or Florida, or either coast to the coastline, to where it may be 60%, you know, in the morning at any given time. You know, that's why some people in Hawaii or anywhere, I don't recommend them getting the bucket on top, because when they wake up in the morning, you know, they're surrounded, landlocked by water. So, you know, this number right there at any given time in Hawaii will be registering 45. But in Georgia, you see right now where it's at nighttime, it's 21. You know, so you really have to, it's contingent on where you're at in the country if you'd be wanting to use the 5-gallon or 4-gallon water capacity or not. Like if you're in Texas, living in San Antonio or Houston, to where it may be a dry, you know, environment with not very humidity in there, you might want to, you know, make some adjustments, or either, you know, and even if you can't get it up, don't add any sponges in the top or the bottom, I mean anywhere, because I mean, if you buy something from GQF, sponges to put in the top, that's not designed with our engineer to, you know, acclimate for this incubator. So if you really want to increase the humidity, shut your garage door, put your water pan here, because you know that the intake of the air is in the back of the incubator, and that'll be the only way, to me, that'll be safely to raise your humidity. But unless you don't have this humidity you know, registering about 45, you know, humidity at all times, if you have it about 55, that's significantly too high in my opinion. Because like I said earlier, if it's raining outside and we're under this shed, it's only about 75% humidity. So, you know, if you're incubating it somewhere from 55 to 60% humidity throughout the duration of the 18 days if you're doing chicken, then you're literally not boiling the egg, but you're making the membrane of the egg too elastic, to when it's time for them to crush the egg, they'll puncture the eggshell, but they won't puncture the membrane of the shell. And you'll notice down here in the hatching tray, they'll literally make a circular environment around the egg, but once it's time for them to hatch, it's like you pushing a plastic bag over your head. If someone doesn't puncture the hole in your mouth, then they won't be able to breathe. At some point, their lungs develop and they need their first, you know, intake of oxygen. So if their, you know, membrane from the eggshell to the chick is too elastic, they can't puncture that, and you'll just see them dying in the shell. And you'll call me, you know, well, da 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 da. So you just need to be paying attention where you need this bottle number about 45. And if they're hatching fine, you know, you may not need to, but sometimes when I'm not running my incubator with a humidity pan, I keep a little Windex bottle in my hand. You know, and if it's small like this, you can slide it up here under this thermostat or on the left side, and you can heat the water up to the temperature of the incubator. And if you think they're really not hatching the way you want to, then you can cut this incubator off, let the fan die, slide this hatching tray out about right here, and you can manually squirt the eggs with water, and you won't have a problem. But that's really only if you're really having a problem with them hatching. But to me, you won't if you run it about 45 to 55 the whole time. Now we up to 102.2. As you can tell, the light's still red. So like I said earlier, we'll turn this thing clockwise. And the light went off, but I guarantee you I turned it a little much. So what I'll do, turn it to where, right there where the light comes up, turn it off just right here. That's where your wing nut comes into play. Boom, locked. Alright, well now when the light comes off, we need it at a temperature over 102, because if this, as you can tell, it's back on and it's regulating that 102.4, so I'm very satisfied with that. But if you're really, you know, a nitpicky type person, you could adjust this even more, a little bit of a turn, and as you can tell, it'll still come on at about 101.9 to 102, and momentarily it'll come back on. As you can tell, it just came back on. So what I do, the high on this is 111. As you can tell, it's counterclockwise all the way, so it's at 111. So right now what I'm going to do, light represents your heating element. So if it's heating, and I got this at 111, this at 102, I'll take this, turn it clockwise. And as you can tell, I'm turning it slowly. And the light went off. Alright, well then, we'll wait for this light to start flashing. And the only reason why we're going to wait it to start flashing is because this electronic thermostat is in control of your unit. Once you drop it under, as you can tell now, it's flashing. Alright, well now, we're at 102.4, so that's still a little high. So we'll go back to it, cut it clockwise more. We'll just do a little much. and we'll wait till the temperature to drop. So we need it flashing at 99.7. And right time this temperature, the temperature and thermostat starts regulating, you're gonna need to wait a little while, because just cause this flashes at like 99.5 doesn't mean it's perfectly at 99.5. You're gonna have to, be patient and wait. Just like at your house, if you cut it up 3 degrees, it's gonna take it 10 to 15, 20 minutes to get it up that 2 degrees. So the closer you get to your temperature, the longer you're gonna have to wait to adjust. And as you can tell me talking right now, it's taking a minute or two just to drop down under 101. And as you can tell, it's probably like 101.25. So now what we'll do is we'll go and cut it clockwise a little more. And now, as you can notice, the light's off. But what I know, you saw me turn a little bit, I'll turn it a little bit more. So we know we just need it flashing at 99.7. And when that occurs, we'll wait, and we'll adjust accordingly. Alright, as you can tell, we're at 98.6 and the light's not flashing. So what does that tell you? The heating element's cut off. So what we need to do at least now is cut it back up a little bit, because we're at a temperature under 96. But listen, we're so close, 98.6. So we're so close to where we need to be that we need to touch this white stem very, very little bit. So what I'll do, I'll come to it and turn it fractions just till my light comes on just. As you can see now, it's on. Well, momentarily I'd cut it so enough this light, as you can tell, will start flashing. Well, even though it's flashing right now, we need to, as you can tell, it's erratic, sporadic, whatever you want to call it. We need to wait till it's kind of like a heartbeat to where it gets regulated. If not, if you touched it right now, it may be at 97.9, but it could be at 98.3. So, but as you know now, we need it at 99.7. So we need to go up 1 more degree. So I'll take this and turn it just a little bit more. Light's still solid, so the flashing light will be coming back on within a few tenths of a degree. And as you can tell, it's flashing again at 97.5. So we need to go up a little bit more, and I'll cut it a little bit more for time's sake. But once you get this flashing at 99.7, and then you put water in it, you're going to need to wait about an hour or two for it to be an accurate depiction of both temperature and humidity. Because when this water, it has to heat up to 99.7, and I don't know about y'all, but my sink, it doesn't quite come out that hot. And my hot water heater may not work, so definitely it's going to come out about 50, so it's going to take it a while. Once you put that water in there, and as well as open the door, it's going to drop. So you're going to need to give it about 45-30 minutes for another accurate depiction. That's why I tell you to go ahead and set your thermostats and be confident with those before you put the water in there. And as you can tell, it's flashing a little bit now at 97.9, so we definitely need to go a little more. As you can tell now, it's at 98.8 and the light's flashing. But I guarantee you, if you wait here about 5 more minutes or so, that it won't be 98.8 very much longer. As you can tell, this isn't as rhythmic as your heart, so you know that it's not quite there yet. And every time you see this flashing light close to 99.7, you have to get it timed to be, for that thermostat to work, in other words, because this is a modulating thermostat, and that's what it means. It's modulating. It's trying to control the temperature within 0.2 of a degree. So the closer it gets to the degree, the more rhythmic this light will be. And all that's representing is your heating element. So it's within 0.2 of a degree or 5 where it needs to be. I guarantee you get a minute, it'll be close.
99.5.
So that's why I tell them, once you get close, you can't really touch it. As you can tell, the light started beating more rhythmically. That's because it's not working as much. As you can tell, it's holding. And all you want to do is you want your incubator holding at 99.7, just like this, with the flashing light for about 30 minutes. It may go up to 99.9. It may drop back to 99.7. You just want it holding about 99.5 to 99.7 for about an hour. And then you can put water in the incubator and regulate your humidity.